service, that's what we're doing. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So the pre-sermon one, I think I'll just stand here and you can
Yeah.
look at me. That's fine.
Okay.
We don't want a lot. We want to vary the sound volume and stuff.
We don't have time?
We don't have time.
We don't have time? Hey, guys, focus. I don't even notice.
Yeah, so I'll just say for the anthem, just be extra diligent about checking in. We have some places where the tempo gets just as good. Just do something, right?
And then coming back, we're gonna just repeat our.
Yes.
What?
Coming back, we are so close.
So we come.
Somebody needs.
I'll stand right here.
Just
How about that?
me in the right direction, all right?
Right, Barbara's first.
Now you hit me if I forget.
Don't make me close there, you.
He always goes Broadway.
How are y'all?
How you doing in your new place? Getting there.
Sort of getting settled.
Yeah, it takes a while. Yeah, all your stuff in a small space, right? Oh, I love you, Jack.
Spirit of life, we know that. What's that now? 238. You know that one?
Sounds familiar. The number sounds familiar.
Okay, great.
It's a gift to go. I can see.
But it must have. About 238. Do you know 238?
16, I was going through. Spirit of life, you know that. So, 238. I'm sorry. Yeah, I will. Yeah. Yes.
Maybe we happen to see a small on light. Yes. Yeah, apparently it was on last Sunday too. Because we have a certain place we put it into, but it's not there. And I looked elsewhere
It's not in our mess.
and looked. I mean, I didn't dig. It's a little bit of a black hole over there. I always thought it'd be kind of nice if we got like a white cabinet.
You know, it would be nice if we did something. This whole corner is so cluttered with the AV, that stuff. Back.
Well, I know there's a move in that.
I know where it was. Yeah. That would be good.
That would be nice.
Now with our looking at the media display stuff, then that stuff.
Right.
I don't know, I think so.
I'm taking them down after. talk to somebody and be like, I didn't see if I just couldn't try, but
Yeah, I do like.
what sounds interesting, yeah. So I thought about psychology. I've always been kind of yeah, I take I don't know, I haven't done it since
Or this can allow you. There's a ton of different tools that I use. But I took like physical
okay, they changed it.
it's a really cool.
Did they go back to the college?
No, it does, yeah. I'm just like, why humans like do this, this is what I do, and it like, yeah, let me like look at a bunch of different signatures. Just like, I thought this is really cool.
Yeah. We went to the.
Yeah, I actually studied like as my major for a year. Well, it was a community college. I think it was the same major for English speaking English. It's so intense. It's teaching like graduate, and it was just like starting for me. And so I was like, I'm gonna just get my like I still wanted to do
I'm not sure. I have to.
I remind you of that. Like what?
Good morning. Welcome to worship with the community of the First Unitarian Church of Omaha. I'm the Reverend Shari Woodbury, the church's minister. Whether you're attending online or in person, I'm glad you've chosen to join us on this December morning. From the Latin, worship means to remember that which is of worth. And thus we gather in community each week to reground ourselves in our highest values. A special welcome to visitors. This congregation is a community of all ages and abilities. It is a community with a rainbow of gender and sexual identities. It is a community of diverse cultural and class backgrounds. We draw from many sources of inspiration and share common liberal religious values. Whoever you may be, we welcome you to bring your whole self into this community. If you're joining us online, I encourage you to create a YouTube account and sign into it when you attend that way. It'll allow you to participate in joys and concerns or otherwise connect with other folks attending online. You'll also find an order of service uploaded on the church website, which you can download if you'd like to follow along. For those here in person, you're invited to go downstairs to the common room in the basement after the service, where coffee and conversation await, and you can also greet our new members this morning who'll be joining today. Meanwhile, if you're logged into church Wi-Fi and don't need to be, please do put your phone on airplane mode during worship. I have a few announcements to share with you this morning. First, unfortunately, tonight's planned meeting of atheists, humanists, and agnostics, AHA, is unable to take place due to illness of the leader and her family. So that 6 o'clock gathering tonight is canceled. Stay tuned for the next AHA event. I also want to mention anybody who enjoyed the creativity in our fall worship series, The Way of Not Knowing. We're beginning to plan our winter worship series on who we are, and at 1 o'clock today in this space, anyone who'd like to be part of brainstorming multisensory engagement for that next series is welcome to come and participate. That's 1 o'clock here in the sanctuary. You probably have heard already, but if you haven't, we are having a candlelight Christmas Eve service. That'll be at 7 p.m. on Saturday. Family and friends are welcome to join you, and you can even grab a card with a candy cane and give it to a friend that you might like to invite to join you on Christmas Eve. Lastly, our mid-year congregational meeting will take place on Sunday, January 8th. We'll have a short worship service at 10:30 in person and on YouTube as usual. That's January 8th. And then after a brief recess, we'll regroup here in the sanctuary, and for those online, on Zoom for the business meeting. This kicks off the nominations process for elected leadership positions for the next church year. And the meeting will also include an update on building repairs, a preview of options for our multimedia upgrade, information about a possible church solar power project, and a chance for small group discussion around the 8th principle for building a diverse, multicultural, beloved community. To find out what else is going on this week, you can use the QR code or links in the program, or grab a copy of printed e-news in the foyer. Each week, we acknowledge that where we meet for worship as the First Unitarian Church of Omaha is the land of the Omaha Oto Nations, and that Indigenous people in the greater community have been marginalized and made invisible. We recognize their presence and aspire to work with them to resolve issues like poverty, displaced children, and murdered and missing Indigenous women, the MMIW. And now a gift of music from our organist. This morning, Vanessa Timberlake will light the flaming chalice. As she does so, I invite you to join in the chalice lighting words. Spark of the Spirit, cupped in earth's embrace, light of love, alive in all creation. As we kindle this flame, we rekindle our connection to the sacred web of life. Thanks, Vanessa. And Ed Kelly joins me in a call to worship that comes from my colleague, Linda Hart. The travelers had come a long way and had a long way yet to go.
Unable to come off the donkey without her husband's assistance and the grace of a large stone, still she came down, one hand to her back, feeling the ache throughout her body. The child in her belly kicked and made her draw a quick breath. Leaning heavily on Joseph's arm, Mary picked her way along the path.
Others on the road had told them that here they might find a spring with water so cold it would hurt their teeth. Here they might find a place of shelter and calm where they could bed down for the night.
Here we come too to find a moment of refreshment and rest from our journeys.
No matter where you are going on your journey,
No matter if it is your choice to go or if you're left by a far away edict.
no matter if you carry a burden or the deepest of joys,
No matter how weary and thirsty you may be.
pause here, take a quiet little breath.
Rest in peacefulness, be renewed and restored. For in a short while the journey will continue with its worries and troubles and joys and promise.
Until then, let us join together, minds and hearts, and worship. Sanctuary singers share a special gift of music with us now, Wonder of Winter. Thank you, Sanctuary Singers. And now I invite the children forward for the Time for All Ages. And Christina Strong, our Director of Lifespan Religious Education, will be sharing it today.
Good morning. Are you ready to hear a story? No? All right, well, it's coming, so get ready. Once upon a time, a baby was born. Do any of you know a baby that got born? Yeah? All right, hold that thought. Even before that baby was born, there were people waiting and wishing and hoping for that baby. The people who were waiting and wishing and hoping for that baby didn't know exactly what that baby would be like. And so they wondered, would that baby have a smile so warm that it could melt the coldest snow? Would the baby have a voice so strong it could shake the very mountains? Have any of you ever wondered what a baby would be like?
No.
You never wondered about your siblings? Oh, you?
I know babies that was born.
Yeah? Okay. Does anybody remember wondering about a baby?
No,
Or being excited while you're waiting?
I wasn't.
Yeah. All right. It's funny, the two with no younger siblings are like, yeah. Would the baby be so courageous that all would be comforted, even during the most ferocious storms? Would the baby show the world so much love that peace would settle into even the most hardened hearts? But even as they asked these questions, as they imagined what the baby might be like, the people who were waiting and wishing and hoping for the baby already believed that the baby would indeed have a warm smile, a strong voice, a courageous spirit, and a loving heart. And they weren't wrong. What baby do you think we might be talking about? Jesus, that's a good guess, because it's right around the time that people celebrate Jesus' birthday. When Jesus was born, his tiny body, yep, you were right, was wrapped up to keep out the cold. He was laid down on straw in a trough that was used to feed the animals inside of a barn. His young parents, proud and exhausted, had been forced to take a long journey far from home. Jesus' parents were two of the people who had been waiting and wishing and hoping for him to be born. But there were people who had been waiting and wishing and hoping for Jesus to come, other people as well. These people saw hurt and suffering in the world, and they believed that this new baby, Jesus, could use his voice to spread a message of love and peace. And they knew it would take courage for him to do so. Who else can use their voice to spread love and peace? Who do you think? Yeah? Yeah? What do you think, Raven? What if all the babies that came used their voice to spread love and peace? Everyone, yeah. But Jesus wasn't the only baby that people have waited and wished and hoped for. People also waited and wished and hoped for you. And you. You and you and you and you. And then once upon a time you were born. But even before you were born, there were people waiting and wishing and hoping for you. But those people who were wishing and waiting and hoping for you didn't know exactly what you would be like. And so they wondered, would you be kind? Would you be brave? Would you show love? Would you spread peace and joy? But even as they asked these questions, as the people who were waiting and wishing and hoping for you imagined what you might be like, what kind of person you might grow to be, they already believed that you would be kind and brave and loving, and that you would spread joy and peace in the world, just like you all said you can do. They knew that you could help ease suffering and hurt in the world, and that you would speak out to help people and spread love. All right, thank you for listening to my story.
If to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down when we ought to be, and when we find ourselves in All right, we have something special for you now. Today we're going to welcome 4 new people into our community officially as members. I invite them to come forward at this time. We have Erica Irwin, Michael B. Bauer, Connie DeFazio, and I'm so pleased that after her surgery earlier this week, which went well, we're also able to have Tricia P. out with us today. You can stand next to Melissa there. This is a time of joy for our congregation as we welcome these new members and renew our shared commitment to this community.
We are pleased that each of you has chosen to formally become a member of this church. Today, we celebrate that commitment with the congregation. When we gather, we search together for meaning and truth in life, and we share our joys and sorrows with one another. Joining the First Unitarian Church of Omaha means being a deeper part of this gathered community, participating as voting members in the governance of the church, supporting others, and being supported in return. If you will join us in this mission and work, please say all together, I will.
Thank you. Will the members of the congregation please rise as you are able and join in the congregational response? We'll do this as a column response, so you can just listen and echo each line. I'll say the words, and then Melissa will lead you in echoing them. Let's begin. We, the members of First Unitarian Church of Omaha.
We, the members of First Unitarian Church of Omaha,
welcome you to our shared journey.
Welcome you to our shared journey.
Community, discovery, and celebration.
Of community, discovery, and celebration.
We invite you to contribute.
We invite you to contribute.
To our work for healing and justice.
To our work for healing and justice.
And pledge to join.
And pledge to join.
Our strength and talent with yours.
Our strength and talent with yours.
Believing that through our common effort.
Believing that through our common effort.
We may better shape.
We may better shape.
The meaning of our lives.
The meaning of our lives.
May we work together.
May we work together.
To sustain this congregation.
To sustain this congregation.
A place of comfort and challenge.
A place of comfort and challenge.
A home from which to journey.
A home from which to journey.
And return once again.
And return once again.
We receive you with open hands and hearts.
We receive you with open hands and hearts.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Congregation, you may be seated.
New members, you can also sign the membership book downstairs at coffee hour if you haven't already. We will also have a welcome gift, actually 2, for you in the common room to remind you that you belong to this community and that this community belongs to you.
It is said that membership truly begins not when you sign the book or appear before the congregation in a ceremony like this one, but when you find yourself disappointed by the congregation and choose to return anyway, putting our covenant of right relations into practice and asking others to live into those promises too. Melissa and I will alternate reading the covenant now before I ask you all to affirm it. Our covenant of right relations.
We, the congregation of First Unitarian Church of Omaha, covenant together
to create a religious community where we can freely explore our values and foster diversity as a source of strength.
To build healthy relationships, seeking to understand each other and respect our differences.
To listen deeply and endeavor to communicate directly, honestly, and compassionately, particularly when we are in conflict.
To do our best to make amends when we have hurt each other, even unintentionally. To learn from our mistakes, to forgive, and to reconnect in a spirit of understanding and commitment.
Members old and new, do you affirm your commitment to this covenant? If so, just as you are, you may say, I do.
I do.
Reverend Alice Blair Wesley said, To join a free church is to sign a promise that may sound simple. It should sound simple, but which, if you keep covenant, brings you into intimate companionship with others who have promised to live with all the integrity you and they can together muster in all the years of your lives. To our new members, Erica, Michael, Connie, and Tricia, may you find comfort in this community. May you find joy in it. May you be challenged in it. And may you know that your presence among us is a blessing for all. We're so glad to have you with us. Each week, we practice the spiritual virtue of generosity by taking up a community offering. Half of the loose currency in the offering plate is donated to a local cause, which resonates with UU principles. If you're online or prefer to give via your smartphone, you can use the QR code or link provided with the order of service and the service information. Our Share the Plate recipient for December is Youth Emergency Services, YES. YES serves homeless and at-risk youth by providing critically needed resources that empower them to become self-sufficient. More information can be found at yesomaha.org. Joys and concerns can also be put in the offering basket on a yellow card if you'd like it shared aloud, and those online you can put it in the live chat. We'll enjoy a gift of music. Thank you for giving with a generous heart as you're able. We turn now for the time of sharing joys and concerns among us. Again, those online can put them in the chat if you have something to share. I've got two here. Tricia Piat, who was just up here as a new member a moment ago, shares the joy. I have so much to be thankful for today. I spent the last few decades feeling buried in sad family dramas. I am here today due to love and support of my friends, Gail, Sid, Sandy, and some others. They helped me navigate my path to cleared-mindedness, and once there, I found this church. Now I am adding to my list of friends Connie, Terry Lynn, Elaine, and dozens of friends I haven't had a chance yet to meet. Tricia says, today I rejoice in all of you. Today I am home. Today I have a family. We're so glad you're with us, Tricia. And Terry Lynn Brewer shares, I'm overjoyed to see my friend and neighbor Tricia Piat formally become a member of our community. My heart goes out to her on this special day. Let's see. Colin, do we have any from online?
We have one from Linda Parker saying, "Thank you everyone who has helped and encouraged me during my recovery from 2 broken arms. I'm improving and looking forward to returning to in-person services." Then we have another one from Denise A. And it says, "Grateful for the Cups event yesterday and to the folks who stepped forward to revitalize the group." And nothing on chat.
Okay. We're glad to hear that Linda Parker is doing well and that she appreciates all the help, and wonderful to have that cups gathering. I invite you to join me in a centering song as we hold in our hearts all of those joys and concerns, and also all of the joys and the concerns, the losses represented by these ribbons here from a ritual we did a few weeks ago. We'll sing number 123, Spirit of Life, and feel free to close your eyes if you like. On the wings of this music, let us enter a period of quiet contemplation together. We do this each Sunday as a way of joining in solidarity with all of those who know both joy and sorrow. I'll begin with a pastoral introduction before we have a time for your own silent reflection or meditation. You may want to check your posture and take a deep breath as we begin. Spirit of life, when days are busy with holiday preparations, let us remember what celebration is for. The celebration of this brief and precious life, which each one of us is given to cherish. Celebration of our connections with one another, from the dearest loved ones to the farthest flung foreign cousins in our human family. Celebrations that link us across generations and over miles to those who have gone before us and those coming after us. Spirit of love, in moments of loneliness or grief, move in our hearts with stirrings of compassion for ourselves, and encourage us to reach out and to give and receive support and connection, not to overcome grief, which is ever the companion of those who have truly loved, but so that we may continue to experience not only sorrow, but also joy and care. Spirit of the solstice dark, invite us, like our animal friends, to listen to the pull of the seasons, to rest when our bodies and spirits need rest, to hole up, hibernate, make soup, go to bed early, fluff up, snuggle in, do less, be more, according to our need. Spirit of light, remind us, should we forget, that the light always returns. In truth, the light never leaves us, for we have come from the light. May each one present to my voice feel that spark of the Spirit within themselves, ready to shine forth with the radiance of the original creativity and love. May it be so. Amen. A time for your own prayer or meditation. For our reading this morning, I draw from David Steindl-Rast, a Catholic monk and Zen Buddhist practitioner who asserts that mysticism is at the heart of religion. We've come to understand mysticism, he says, as the experience of communion with ultimate reality, i.e. with God, if you feel comfortable with this time-honored but also time-distorted term. This meditating monk suggests that founders and great teachers, like Jesus, are inspired by their experience of a oneness with all life, something many of us feel in smaller doses at some point in our lives. Brother Steindl-Rast describes how the heart of religion, which comes from the founder's mystical perspective, is inevitably corrupted over time. The mystical light is refracted by our minds and warped by the forces of human history and social institutions. Religion, he says, can, however, be purified and renewed whenever a faithful heart recognizes, in spite of all distortions, the original light. Steindl-Rast offers one more metaphor for understanding this process. He says, the light of doctrine, the glow of ethical commitment, and the fire of ritual celebration were expressions that gushed forth red hot from the depths of mystical consciousness. But as that stream of lava flowed down the sides of the mountain, he says, it began to cool off. The farther it got from its origins, the less it looked like fire. It turned into rock. Dogmatism, moralism, ritualism, all are layers of ash deposits and volcanic rock that separate us from the fiery magma of mystical awareness deep down below. He goes on, but there are fissures and clefts in the igneous rock of the old lava flows. There are hot springs, fumaroles, and geysers. There are even occasional earthquakes and minor eruptions. These represent the great men and women who reformed and renewed religious tradition from within. And we might add that whether they intended it or not, those who seek to purify their tradition often end up founding new religious orders, new sects or denominations. At least that is what can happen if established institutions resist calls for renewal rather than respond to them. Brother Steindl-Rast concludes that the challenge is to find access to the mystical core of religion and to live in its power. In this sense, he says, every generation is challenged anew to make its religion truly religious. You might look upon today's service as an invitation to do just that. There's a vast spiritual literature associated with Jesus that can help with this, certainly including spiritually charged passages in the Bible, like the Sermon on the Mount. But let us draw upon the Gospel of Thomas and other long-suppressed Christian teachings as well to reclaim and renew the mystical core of Christianity. In this way, we may decode the teachings of Jesus and discover a mystical teacher on fire with the truth. As we near the annual celebration of Jesus' birthday, Christmas carols suggest some of the ways that people might understand Jesus of Nazareth. Joy to the World tells us the Savior reigns. The first Noel features the prophesied King of Israel. Silent Night croons of the Son of God who brings the dawn of redeeming grace. Jesus has inspired hope in different ways down the centuries. Parents and children may simply enjoy the celebrations of Christmas with their focus on a pure infant, that baby we heard about in the Time for All Ages. Early Unitarians regarded Jesus as a teacher and an example of what we all can be at our best. Debates about the meaning of this enigmatic figure date to the earliest days of Christianity. This is evident in a collection of long-hidden texts from early Christian communities that was found near Nag Hammadi in Upper Egypt in the last century. Among these suppressed secret writings, which the founders of the Orthodox Church perceived as dangerous, one that stands out is the Gospel of Thomas. The Gospel of Thomas, have you heard of it? The short collection consists of 114 verses. It simply recites Jesus' spoken sayings. Considered one of the earliest Christian writings and a likely source for later Gospels like those found in the Bible, the Gospel of Thomas might seem rather plain on the surface. Gone is the biography of Jesus and interpretations of what those events might mean. There's no miraculous birth, no precocious childhood. We get no description in Thomas of Jesus' death by crucifixion, much less a resurrection. Gone, we might say, are the hard accretions added over centuries of creating a religious institution. All we have is what Jesus likely said. But upon deeper examination, there's nothing simple about these sayings. In the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus offers parables, metaphors, and koans to open the heart and stretch the mind. It's the sort of lava Brother Steindl-Ross described in our reading. Here, Jesus sounds like a mystic, a Middle Eastern guru trying to teach earnest seekers how they, too, might experience this spiritual fire. The goal he holds out is not to go to heaven upon death or to be resurrected in body at some end time. Rather, it is to recognize and live from one's spiritual essence here in the eternal now. One might argue that this is pure Christianity, pure Jesus. I invite you to imagine yourself coming across this Jesus in your search. Suppose you are going from place to place, like a citizen of the ancient Roman Empire, zigzagging past temples for this god and that. You see a group of people, men and women of all classes of society, clustered around a plain figure. They're engrossed by the presence of this person with gentle yet penetrating eyes. You sit down for a moment to hear if this teacher has anything to say that sparks something for you. Perhaps, as described in the Gospel of Thomas, you hear the disciples offering their guesses as to who Jesus is. Righteous messenger? Wise philosopher? Master? But Jesus rejects these labels. He says,
I am not your master. Because you have drunk, you have become intoxicated from the bubbling spring that I have tended.
Later in the sayings, the disciples assert that Jesus is the Messiah, saying, 24 prophets have spoken in Israel, and they all spoke of you. But Jesus implies that he too is a prophet, not a savior or a Messiah, answering them.
You have disregarded the living one who is in your presence and have spoken of the dead.
Instead of a Messiah, here Jesus is a spreader of spiritual fire, saying,
I have cast fire upon the world, and look, I am guarding it until it blazes.
Perhaps most startling to modern Christian ears is the idea that the disciples need not look outside themselves for a Savior. Rather, Jesus tells them,
if you bring forth what is within you, what you have will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. If you bring forth what is within you, what you have will save you.
If you bring forth what is within you, what you have will save you. The disciples seem to find it particularly difficult to grasp the idea that they can attain the same state as their teacher. Exasperated, Jesus says,
you search the face of heaven and earth, but you have not come to know the one who stands before you, and you do not know how to understand the present moment.
In modern parlance, the disciples just don't get it. But Jesus assures them that the knowledge he possesses is available to all.
One who seeks will find, and for one who knocks it will be opened.
Repeatedly, he tells them,
whoever has ears to hear, let them hear.
Is this Jesus like a bodhisattva, spiritually awake and doing his best to help others wake up too? That's how he occurs to me when I read the Gospel of Thomas. The way that Jesus speaks of the disciples sheds more light on what this spiritual fire is that he is trying to stoke in them. Like other proponents of the perennial philosophy, he wants people to discover who they really are. Jesus says,
the kingdom is inside you and outside you. When you know yourselves, then you will be known, and you will understand you are children of the living Father. But if you do not know yourselves, then you live in poverty, and you are poverty.
Later, Jesus tells the disciples that if they are asked about their origins, they should answer.
We have come from the light, from the place where the light came into being by itself, established itself, and appeared in their image. We are the chosen of the living Father.
Jesus revealed to the disciples the true identity of all human beings, telling them to say, we have come from the light.
We have come from the light.
them, we have come from the light. To my ears, Thomas's Jesus is, in his own way, saying something similar to the Chandogya Upanishad. He's an affirming an identification between the individual and the ultimate. Your Atman is Brahman. You too are of the light. Scholar Elaine Pagels offers a similar interpretation of the message of this long-lost gospel. According to Thomas, she explains, Jesus declares that we must find out first where we came from. We must go back and take our place in the beginning, referring to the biblical creation story of Genesis, when God created us in the image of the primordial light. How is this different than so-called Orthodox Christianity? Thomas's gospel, Pagels says, encourages the hearer not so much to believe in Jesus, as John requires, as to seek to know God through one's own divinely given capacity, since all are created in the image of God. And why does this matter now? Pagels says, because those who later enshrined the Gospel of John within the New Testament and denounced Thomas's gospel as heresy decisively shaped and inevitably limited what would become Western Christianity. So the plot thickens, or the lava cools, as the story of the development of historical Christianity unfolds further. Like several other scholars, through diligent research, Pagels came to the shocking conclusion that John's gospel, the one you might know from the Bible, was actually written specifically to refute what Thomas teaches, what is written in the Gospel of Thomas. In fact, it is John who carries out a smear campaign against Thomas, labeling him the doubter. Among all the Gospels, John is the only one preoccupied with asserting the unique divinity of Jesus. You heard, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the light, I am the vine. That's John. Only John puts such exclusive words on Jesus' lips. In contrast, Thomas's gospel expresses the central mystical idea. The idea, as Pagels puts it, that the image of God is hidden within everyone, although most people remain unaware of its presence. We all have a divine spark within us. Though the Gospel of Thomas and other mystical writings were suppressed over and over again by those who called themselves Orthodox, such ideas kept resurfacing. In 13th century Germany, for example, Meister Eckhart offered a particularly powerful expression of this idea from within the mainstream Christian tradition. The seed of God is in us, Eckhart wrote. Given an intelligent and hardworking farmer, it will thrive and grow up to God, whose seed it is. And accordingly, its fruits will be God nature. Pear seeds grow into pear trees, nut seeds into nut trees, and God seed into God. Each child is born with this God seed, this original goodness. Variations on this theme appear at the beginning of our tradition as well. William Ellery Channing, founder of Unitarianism, expounded on our likeness to God in a sermon so titled in 1828. The idea of God, Channing explained, is the idea of our own spiritual nature, purified and enlarged to infinity. In ourselves are the elements of divinity. We see God around us, Channing wrote, because he dwells within us. The Transcendentalists were even bolder. A few years after Channing's likeness to God sermon, young Unitarian minister Ralph Waldo Emerson had written in his journal, "The highest revelation is that God is in every person. In his famous Divinity School address of 1838, Emerson spoke publicly about how Jesus proclaimed his own divinity, taught others to see God in him, and urged them to follow him by seeing God in themselves. But the church, Emerson complained, restricted the divine indwelling to one or two persons. And he said it limited inspiration to the closed canon of the Bible. Emerson instead encouraged budding clergy to recover true rather than historical Christianity. The disciples try mightily to decode Jesus' message, but they do not find his teachings easy to grasp. In the Gospel of Thomas, when the disciples want to know what the kingdom of heaven is like, Jesus reorients them. Rather than viewing the spiritual destination as a place and a time, he wants them to understand it as a state of being, a form of consciousness, an intimate relationship. He tells them,
nursing babies are like those who enter the kingdom.
The disciples try to take this literally, but Jesus explains that what is important about the image of nursing babies is that the babe and the mother make the two into one, a dissolving of separate identity into loving unity. Likewise, Jesus says,
when you make the inner like the outer, and the outer like the inner, and the upper like the lower, and you make male and female into a single one.
When all these dualities are overcome, you have achieved the goal, which is a state of unity. This true awareness, this kingdom of the Father, is unrealized by many. Jesus says,
the kingdom of the Father is spread out upon the earth, but the people do not see it.
So how can one experience this unitive awareness? In the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus offers much guidance on how to attain this gnosis, this knowledge, how in the image of Meister Eckhart to cultivate the God seed within ourselves. For example, Jesus tells us,
buyers and merchants will not enter the places of my Father.
So mundane living, focused on material values, is not the way. Instead of outward treasures, he wants us to attend to what we store up in our hearts, because it is from the overflow of the heart that good or evil actions arise. Prayer, meditation, practices of gratitude and connection are some of the ways we might store up love and wisdom in our hearts. Jesus also teaches that we must be present because heaven is here now if you know how to tune in. Hence, when the disciples ask about the new world to come, Jesus tells them,
what you look forward to has already come, but you do not recognize it.
He does not want his listeners to wait for some future time. This is conveyed in the parable of the rich man who has wise intentions but dies before he fulfills them. Rather, Jesus lifts up the possibility of unitive consciousness right now, saying,
whoever is undivided will be full of light.
Jesus wants his disciples to be like him, not only in awareness, but in teaching this wisdom to others. He beseeches them.
Let your light shine.
And
Proclaim it from the rooftops.
he uses two parables with metaphors of yeast and scattered meal to express how the kingdom of the Father, this idea of living from our true nature, is spread. He hopes that the disciples will attain this insight and be an infectious source of it, be a spiritual leaven to humankind, as Jesus is. But alas, history suggests that the disciples' efforts met with only limited success. At least that's my reading. They never fully got it. The teachings of the Gospel of Thomas suggest that the disciples were unable to aptly decode Jesus' message. The understandings passed down in the mainstream varied in crucial ways from what we find in Thomas. The hot lava eventually cooled to rock. Fortunately, the Gospel of Thomas and other long-buried texts from early Christian communities are now available once again. We may use these texts to help realize for ourselves that awareness to which Jesus points in the sayings. In so doing, we can join people like Brother Steindl Rust, renewing one of the great religious traditions, making the religion of Jesus truly religious in our time. As we turn to such teachings for insight, for wisdom, and for hope, at Christmas time or any other time of year, may we come to know the light that dwells in every child, in every person, in ourselves. And may we answer Jesus' call in the Gospel of Thomas to light up the whole world with that light. May it be so. Amen. I invite you to rise if you like and join in our closing hymn, number 238, Within the Shining of a Star. You may be seated. Let every light remind us we have come from the light. By the sparkling lights on our Christmas trees, by the starlight that pierces the darkness of night, by the daylight that fills more of each day from the soon coming winter solstice to the summer one, may we remember that each one of us, whatever our condition in life, comes from the primordial light. Let us cultivate the seeds of original goodness within ourselves. Let us store up so much love that love overflows from our hearts. Let us be a leaven in this hungry and hurting world. May we bring forth what is within us until it lights up the whole world. Amen.